Welcome to our first episode of Brackin Blades Forge Tutes.
Like the fart jokes ensue.
Welcome to our first episode of Brackin Blades Forge Tutes. We're going to be talking about tools, methods, and best practices for you, the knife maker.
That was great!
It was perfect! Yeah. Today we are going to be talking about angle grinders and files. So some of the common wheels that you're going to find yourself using on an angle grinder is going to be a grinding wheel, of course. This is to remove heavy material quickly. Sometimes I use the edge to grind in fullers and different designs into the steel. You're going to be using a flat disc for sanding and polishing. This is the one you're going to use the most, and that is a cutting disc. If you're doing stock removal, this is going to be your best friend until he breaks and bites you in the chest. And then a polishing wheel. A couple of the important things to note about the angle grinder. If you want to take your guard off and you want to take your handle off and you want to go rogue and just start cutting stuff, be my guest. But don't tell them you learned it from me. I leave the guard on, I leave the handle on. This protects my eyes, it protects my body, it protects me from exploding blades. Yes, we've had exploding blades before. One of the other things to note and pay attention to is the directional arrow. This does two things. One, it tells me which way the blade is spitting. It also tells me which way the sparks are going. So if you're doing this right here, and you're cutting a piece of steel, sparks are going to go straight in your face. The other thing that I'm going to say is purchase yourself a good grinder. This grinder's a Milwaukee. I'm not sponsored by Milwaukee, but I like this grinder. The guard works great. It's got a little pivot point here that I can turn the guard and rotate it around what I'm working on. It's got a lock, which most grinders feature a lock, so that I can take the blade off easy. And then it's got 2 points for which way I can put the handle. So I mentioned a second ago that you can use the grinding wheel to grind in fullers and different cool designs. Let me show you what I mean. If we're taking this piece of steel, I can then take that grinder and with a very, very clean and precise line, cut a fuller into that blade. This is what I mean. That's how I made the fuller on this knife right here. This is a current project that I'm working on myself, just kind of a personal pet project. And I ground that fuller in with a grinding wheel on an angle grinder and then went to my fuller grinder, so I had a good straight channel. When I put it on my fuller grinder, I didn't have to worry about it wobbling and things like that. So stick around to the end, and I'm going to tell you why these two tools are the most important tools and why we chose to do them first for this series. The next part of this video, we are going to talk about files and why files are important. We have a little piece of test steel, and when we get done talking about them, we're going to head over to our vise and we're going to show you how each one cuts. So let's start with the flat bastard. This file is to remove the bulk of your material. If you're beveling or if you're shaping a tip or things like that, or a choil, this is going to be the one you're going to go to kind of hardcore move most of the material and get it down. They're easy to find. So the next file is a rounded bastard file. What this one allows you to do is when you're working in choils and things like that, or if you want to cut in a choil, you can use this and it will make a nice smooth transition that's arched, just like the file. The next one you're going to find yourself wanting is a rat tail file. A rat tail file is important for a couple of reasons. One, it's one of the ways that we make the sharpening notches at the beginning of our bevels, but it's also the way that you decorate the spine. This is a triangular file. The primary thing that I use this for is when I'm cleaning up shoulders or when I'm decorating the spine. This is not all of them, but you would need a complete set of jeweler's files. These little files help you get into tight places and just really clean up your project. The last file on the table is what's known as a checkering file. A checkering file has a lot of little teeth, and these little teeth cut very, very straight lines. Another thing that I would go ahead and get yourself, and you can make this out of a block of wood, this one came with my file kit, is a handle. You're going to save yourself a lot of pain and heartache putting a handle on the back side of that file. This just wedges on, tight fits, and you can pop it off when you're done with it and put it to a different file. Last but not least, some form of brush. These files gum up. You get little bitty pieces of metal stuck in them, you set them down, you get junk stuck in them. They're really sharp, really tight spaces. Keep a brush around, clean them out. Your files will last longer, your projects will look better because you're not fighting against a dirty and broken file. Rat tail. And you can see you have a nice little radius. That could be used as a sharpening notch, or you could do it either or to create a pattern. and that would give you a little decorative spine work. Here we have our triangular file. You see it creates a nice little triangular notch, and again you could angle its orientation and create decorative spine work. You can also combine these two to make different patterns. See, there's a nice big radius there that could be used for a finger choil. There's also a flat side if I wanted to just clean up whatever I was working on. Last but not least, the checkering file. You got that right. It creates jimping. This is the jimping that you would see on the back of the spine of a knife. And there's a couple ways you can do the jimping. One of the other ways I like to do the jimping is at an angle. Or, better yet, a crosshatch pattern. Alright, so I told you that at the end of the video, I would tell you exactly why these two tools are the most important tools and should be your first tools as a knife maker. The reason these are the top two tools you should get when you're first starting your journey as a knife maker is because you can completely make a knife with just this set of tools. You could use the grinder, cut out your shape, cord wrap the handle. You could use the files to refine your shape. I've even used files to completely make a knife, starting with a bar stock, filing away the tip until it was nice and radiused, and filing away a choil, and then putting a cord wrap on it. You can completely start the knife making process with just these two tools. That's why, in my opinion, they're the top two tools that you should have as a beginner knife maker. Thank you so much for watching the first episode of Brackin Blades Forge Tutes. Tune in next time, where our video is going to be about two power tools that I think should be the first two power tools after your angle grinder and files. Welcome, Tutes.